Hello and welcome. My name is Zeta Mel. Thank you so much for joining me on this video today. A quick disclaimer, I won't be editing the video in any way, so there will be some mistakes, I'm sure, but we will proceed anyway. I'll try and keep it as short and concise as possible. Here we are looking at arguably an advanced technique which is very simple to apply, and it's how to achieve nice loud mixdowns. I have my first independent release here called Kill the Machine. I'm just going to play that through and we'll look at the luffs. So an average long term of -5 luffs is quite loud, quite respectable. I think to my ears the mix sounds quite clean, it doesn't sound too pushed, certainly for this style of music anyway. These techniques can be applied to pretty much any DAW and any genre as well. So in principle, when trying to get a loud mix down, maybe only 6 months ago I was putting all the information into the stereo output and relying on compressors and hard limiters at the end stage to then try to make up that extra volume or to squash things down to make it sound nice and full. However, I was finding that the VSTs, the compressors, limiters, they were working too hard, and that was affecting the quality because I wasn't gain staging and I wasn't grouping sufficiently. Now, this technique here is very simple. We have 4 different groups. The first group is the subgroup, where we have all the low end information. So predominantly kick and bass, but you could also include bass sweeps and booms, for example, impacts. And next up we have the drop group. I've called it the drop group. It really doesn't matter about the name, but in here I've put all the lead information, the synths, the chords, anything that's relevant to the drop and makes up the main part of the song. And then I route the subgroup with the low information along with the drop group, or the lead information and the chords. I put that into a third group, so I've originally called that a sub-drop group. Here we go. And then lastly we've got a pre-master. So the pre-master is pretty much everything that doesn't apply to the first 2 groups. In here we could have vocals, effects, hats, percussion, snares, drum rolls, everything else, chuck it in the pre-master. So once we've got our groups and we've itemized all the individual channels, we then go into the first group and we're going to pop on a hard limiter. So in this case my weapon of choice is the Pro L2. We don't want to do too much gain reduction, we just want a small amount. So generally for me a rule of thumb is up to -3 decibels of gain reduction. So let's take a look at this bad boy in action. So just taking out the peaks, this kind of glues the kick and the bass together somewhat. We're then going to look at the drop group. So let's take a look at that with a second Pro L on there. Same thing again, up to around 3 decibels of gain reduction. So there's a couple of momentary peaks where it's up to 3.5, maybe 4 decibels of gain reduction, but just to give you a rough idea, I think any more than that and we tend to then affect the quality again. So that's what we're trying to retain, the quality of the the individual tracks while also lightly compressing and squashing those down so that they're more manageable when it reaches the master output. So the sub and the drop then go into the sub drop group. So once again, surprise surprise, we have another limiter in there, and you guessed it, up to 3 decibels of gain reduction. And with the pre-master, I generally, as a rule of thumb, I still tend to try and stick to there's another Pro L on there. I tend to stick around the -3 decibels, but as we have impacts, crashes, fills, there will be some momentary peaks where it could reduce more, but this is all good because as long as it's not affecting the quality, when we reach the master output, we'll have a nice and controlled level. Okay, so I then apply this principle of this kind of little and often. I then apply that to the master. So let's hop into the master chain, and this isn't set in stone, this doesn't have to be this way, this is just how I've done it personally. I have a few different limiters going on there, so we'll start off by jumping into Ozone and Ozone 8 maximizer. I think probably 1 or 2 decibels of gain reduction. So that's just slowly attacking some of those peaks that are coming through. And then we go into Pro L2 and there's more of the same. And I picked up this technique from someone on YouTube, I can't remember their name, but shout out to them. They then ran their sound through camel fat, and it just seems to be a nice little way of getting some extra volume in there. Once again, nothing too crazy, only a small amount going through the compressor there, but it certainly adds some extra volume on the final output. So this technique, I've only been doing it for maybe 3 months, 6 months, absolute tops. It's been a game changer for me. I hope it helps you. If you've got any questions, just give me a shout. Nice one.